Okay, Kerry, you want to talk about yourself a little bit?
Sure, no problem. How's my sound? Is it okay?
Yes. Is it
Wonderful.
okay? Can everybody hear?
Yeah.
Make some noise, Kerry.
Okay, so my name is Kerry Rego, and I'm from Santa Rosa, California, in the Bay Area. Is that good?
Yes.
Yes?
All right. Okay, so yes, I'm Kerry Rego. I own Kerry Rego Consulting in the Bay Area, and I'm a social media trainer and a keynote speaker. So I spend much of my time working with individuals, businesses, organizations, nonprofits to understand social media and new media tools. And my specialty is actually not making people feel like they don't know what's going on. I like to make it non-threatening and fun, and I'm really passionate about technology. So I love to have the opportunity to come into Mac user groups. I regularly visit the North Coast Mac users group, and I am a regular speaker at the Mac Computer Expo. So, anything else you'd like me to know? I could keep going. I could go all day long.
No, we're really glad you're with us, and welcome to the Naples Mac user group. And we really do have a large group of people that came out today. So they must be extremely interested in what you're going to be talking about.
Wonderful. Well, I find this is an extremely important conversation to have about what people don't know about yourself and what's possible with your reputation online. I spend a lot of time talking about Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, things like that. But when it really comes down to it, if you're in business or not in business, everybody has a reputation, and everybody's reputation is not only on the line, but it's online.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
I'm just going to double check to see if I'm videotaping here.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So I have a presentation that I give that is really geared for individuals, for businesses, for everybody. So keep in mind that some of this may be applicable to you, some of it might not. But ultimately, you may have a side business, you may still be in the corporate world. I've tried to really touch and reach everybody. So this presentation that I have, I do recommend normally I would take questions during a presentation, but because I can't see you, hoping we can keep them towards the end, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. And there is also contact information at the end should you want to have a conversation with me privately or offline, something that you may not want to raise your hand for in public, if you will. I understand how that works. So I'm going to jump into my presentation if you're ready.
Ready.
Okay, so
Oops, lost the audio.
I think.
Switch into a.
Let's see what happens here.
she's talking weird.
Lost sound. Lost sound.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes.
Okay, good. Can you see my title screen?
Yep. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So I wanted to start off with a story for you that describes the importance of your reputation. I have a girlfriend that is a Broadway performer, and she has the same name, unfortunately, as another person. But the story goes, she went for an audition on Broadway, and they almost didn't call her in. When the casting director told her that, we almost didn't bring you in, and she said, what was the reason? She has 20 years of Broadway experience. She's very well known, very popular. And they said, well, when we Googled you, your name came up with attached to an adult performer, a XXX performer came up. And she was shocked to learn this. She was lucky that the casting director knew who she was, knew her skill set, and knew what she looked like. She was also benefited by the fact that they look very, very different. The point is that sharing a name with somebody, just one person that maybe has a negative reputation, can unfortunately affect you as well. Now, we all used to say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I don't know about you, but you make me aware that that's no longer the case. In fact, the Tourism Bureau for Las Vegas knows that this is no longer the case because they no longer use this ad campaign, which they actually had adopted. They now adopted a new ad campaign that is Know the Code. And it really means that if you share anything that happens in Las Vegas, you become a social pariah. Really what this means at this point is that the second you go on vacation and you have that wonderful poo-poo platter or flambe, and you share a photo with anybody you know, whether it's by text or Facebook or some other tool, the second it happens, I know what you were doing. Everybody knows what you were doing. So the point of this is there is no privacy. There is no secret that you can keep when you're online at this point. So let's have a basic understanding of what reputation management is. This definition that comes from Wikipedia says that it is the practice of understanding or influencing an individual or business brand. Though it was originally coined as a public relations term, advancement in computing and the internet makes it really an issue of search results. This used to be known as personal branding. It's still a common term, but reputation management seems to be what it's being called more frequently now that we are managing our reputation on the web. So everybody has a reputation, but not everybody is aware of the impact that the web has on reputation. I'm curious, you don't necessarily have to answer me verbally, but if you've ever Googled yourself, if you haven't Googled yourself, this is ultimately the first thing that I'd recommend in managing your reputation. Now, Google is the largest search engine. It's not the only. It has approximately 68% market share. So there's also Bing, there's Yahoo, there's AOL, Bleco, a few others, but it's 68% market share. When you hear information about searching on the web or search engine results, you can pretty much bet that we're really talking about Google. So at this point, I'm hoping that you have Googled yours. If there's one thing you walk away from, that's what I want when you get home or when you're at a web-enabled computer. Why that's important is that when you look at this map of statistics on where people land when they're on the first page of Google, 35% don't go past position 1. But the bottom line of all of this is 85% of people never make it off the first page. I've heard this statistic as high as 96%. I took the lowest out of the ones that I saw. Even at the lowest, 85% of people never make it off the first page. Generally, there are 10 search results on a single search result page of Google. So it's really important for you to understand that that first page is really the sweet spot. It's really where you need to be. So whether this is for your name, your individual personal name, or your business name or organization name, you really need to be all over that first page. And there are many search engine optimization companies that specialize in getting people to the first page of Google. If you own a business, you've received at least 27 million phone calls about this particular subject, and they're regularly trying to get people to pay lots of money to own that first page of Google. And the step-by-step instructions that I'll give you over the next 35 minutes will give you a really good grasp on how you can own your first page of search results for your name or your business without paying anything. Granted, yes, you could pay a lot of money, and yes, you could impact it more, but Google keeps changing its algorithms. It keeps changing the rules, so it's becoming harder and harder to own that first page of Google, and it's becoming very difficult to pay for that first page. So let's talk about a few things that could damage your reputation or could negatively impact your name when somebody Googles you. I talked to a woman this morning. I posted something to my Facebook page last night, and I got a response from her this morning that said she'd applied for an HR job, and that part of the job requirements, this job she has not yet actually gotten, but she applied for it, It said part of the job was to investigate every single employee and every single prospective hire online. So here are a few things that may do damage to your reputation. Your photo. This photo is probably the most PG-rated example that I could come up with. I didn't want to shock anybody's gentle sensitivities. But with a large glass of wine and a woman that looks like she's had a few too many, this is an example of a damaging photo. It doesn't look bad in another context, but if it's your profile photo or it's something you've posted on your Facebook profile or Google Plus or any other tool that you're using that an employer or prospective client or vendor or anyone in that general region, if they see this, what do they think of this photo? What is the impression that somebody receives when looking at this photo? I've seen half-naked photos, I've seen too much cleavage, I've seen completely inappropriate, I've seen totally drunk. So I've seen some really bad examples of personal choices about sharing. And photos are really the first impression on the web. The second impression is usually spelling. This is a deal breaker. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to employers. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to adults of any age. Generally, adults over the age of 35, this is a major complaint. People under the age of 35 have always relied on spell check. So spelling for them isn't as pertinent, isn't as important, but ultimately, almost every single person that I deal with complains about spelling and grammar. I have a girlfriend, lover, lover, lover. She's the worst speller I've ever seen. 5 years of knowing her, I can now interpret what she's saying via text or email, but I always think to myself, what do her clients see? What do her invoices look like? What do her proposals look like? What do her professional communications look like? I think just her bad form of spelling does more to her reputation, more detriment than just about anything else. I've already told you a story about duplicate names. My concern now is that I know several people that share a name with an adult performer. I'm concerned that at some point, someone is going to share a story with me about sharing a name with somebody that is in the news for something bad, a criminal or a violent person. That has not yet happened, but I'm expecting that it will soon. So who do you share a name with? I know that there's another Kerry, Rego. She should be about 18 years old now. I met her online. I think she lives in Minnesota. We had a brief conversation, but at least I know who she is. And then there's another who works for a bank in Michigan. So I know who my name doppelgangers are. Do you have one? Do you know who they are? Do you know where they are? If somebody comes up to you and says, oh, I looked you up online and I found X, you can say, oh no, that's the other so-and-so. Your style of communication. This is really important. Each social network that's out there, each tool that we use is very much like a network, like a party, like a room of people, that there's a certain set of cultural rules. If your style of communication is not fitting within the context of that culture, you stand out like a sore thumb and can create a lot of offensive situations. So understanding that the style of communication is appropriate in that instance is really important. Damaging information. I actually hired a woman who said to me, have you Googled me? And I said, no, not yet. And she said, when you Google me, you're going to find an article from 15 years ago that's negative, and I'm still trying to get over that. At this point, damaging information is up. I want you to take a look and see if there's anything out there. I have a friend that was part of a lawsuit, and all of her legal documentation was online. It was public record. Public records are available on the web. I wanted to give you an example of some of the issues you run into. So I did mention the woman that applied to be an HR recruiter, and this goes right in line with that. 70% of recruiters have rejected a candidate based on their online reputation. though only 7% of Americans believe their online reputation affects their job search. I used to be a recruiter, and if I had had the web when I was in the field, that would have been a gold mine. I just can't believe the disparity between the recruiters and the belief of the average American. This statistic alone is one of the reasons that I give presentations on this particular subject. The disparity between those two numbers is so shocking to me. People need to understand it does affect their life. It does affect their bottom line. It affects whether or not people will date you, whether they will hire you, whether they will work with you, or even continue to do any of those things. One thing that's important to understand about how consumers make decisions in the purchasing world is word of mouth marketing. So if somebody speaks negatively about you, how does that make you feel about the service or the person? Ultimately, word of mouth marketing has been up till now the most important form of marketing. If you say it's great and you like it, you're my friend, I trust you. I believe what you have to say. This new statistic here, 4 out of 5 consumers changed their mind about a recommended purchase based solely on negative information they found online. This statistic here tells me that negative sentiment about a brand or a person trumps word of mouth marketing, which was formerly known as the most powerful form of marketing known to man. Negative sentiment blows that out of the water. What is being said about you online? So if you imagine the very worst thing that somebody could say about you, when it comes to businesses, that you provide terrible service, you're not worth the price, there's a lot of really bad things that somebody could say about you. And Yelp usually encompasses all of those things when it comes to a business. Yelp is just the most noticeable one for businesses. When it comes to individuals, this information could be anywhere. But Yelp is a lightning rod for this type of behavior. And I'm going to give you a little bit more information on how you're going to deal with negativity. So give me a few minutes on that and I will get back to it. So first, you Googled yourself. Know what's happening with your name. The next step is for you to monitor what's happening with your name. When you Googled yourself, I'm hoping that you're going to write down any negativity or any things that you need to address for later so that you can get to that when you're ready. But the next step is to monitor. You can get yourself a free Google account, and they have a service called Google Alerts. So when you Google yourself, it's actually called a vanity search, because when you're not on Google, a vanity search is the action that you're taking on Bing or AOL or Yahoo. It is searching for a name or a brand online. Google has just become a verb. So you don't have to do this every single day. You can set an automated service that will do it for you. And my favorite is Google Alerts at the top of the list. By the way, all of these services that I've listed here are free. Google Alerts, you log into your Google account. It's google.com/alerts. And you can set this up to do a vanity search for you as your name appears on the web. So manually, I'll do a vanity search for Kerry Rego or Kerry Rego Consulting, my brand. But I don't want to have to do that every day. And truthfully, if I do that every day, it narrows my search results. The search engine remembers that I am searching for that term and I'm not getting what they call virgin search results. So it remembers your IP address. So doing vanity searches regularly isn't particularly helpful, but Google Alerts will do it for you. Anytime my name appears online, or my brand name, or any other term that I have set an alert for, I get an email, whether I choose to have it come through as it happens, which is great for crisis situations, once a day, once a week. I have those alerts sent to me by email. It's very easy to edit, create, or delete an alert right out of the email. Again, this is free. My favorite way to use Google Alerts in an unexpected way, beyond my name, my maiden name, my business name, my Twitter handle, my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my company URL, any URL I can think of, a specific term for my industry. I'm a social media trainer. So when I look up social media training and I set a Google alert for that, I get a lot of search results. But my favorite unusual and unexpected way to use Google Alerts is for an event. So let's say you're planning on traveling to the Mac Expo in San Francisco next year. What you can do is 3 or 4 months before that event occurs, you can set an alert for Mac Expo. What will happen is that you will start to see Flickr photo albums, people chatting on open channels about traveling and going to that particular location. You'll start to see videos being posted from last year's event. So for an event specific, then you can fill your dance card, if you will, before you get to the event. You can reach out to people online and have conversations with them before you even hit the ground. It's a really efficient use of time. Social mention really looks at sentiment online, and they will review that same term that you maybe put into Google Alerts, put it into social mention, and it will tell you if there is a positive sentiment, neutral, or negative, so you can have an idea of how you're faring right now. Clout is a very interesting tool. It is an algorithm tool that you hook up your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and a few other tools. It was originally designed for Twitter, but what Clout measures is your online influence. And now I have to say, you have to take this with a grain of salt, because this algorithm is measuring your online influence, not how effective you are in your physical community. So this number has to be taken, you gotta give it a little bit of room for falsities, if you will. They change their algorithm every once in a while, and my number swings wildly. So the reason that Clout is important is that I do understand in some fields, such as marketing, that this is a requirement for receiving a new job. If your Clout score is too low, you may not get that job. I heard there was a man in marketing that applied for a job. They asked him what his Clout score was. He did not know. When they looked him up right there on the spot, they noticed his Clout score was low, was in its 30s. The next competitor that did receive the job had a Clout score of 65. It was important to his industry. So yes, it was important. But at this point, if you were to check into the Palms Hotel in Las Vegas, they're going to ask you for your Twitter handle, and they are going to look at your Clout score. If you are, as an example, lower than 50, they will give you a free bottle of champagne. If you're 51 to 65, they may comp you at the VIP club in the hotel. If you are 66 or above, they may give you a free room. The Clout score does actually matter. Why? Because if I have a very high Clout score, I am an important online influencer. And if they give me a free suite at the Palms because of my Clout score, I will most likely go right to my Twitter account and talk about how awesome the Palms Hotel is, and wow, this is super cool, and I'm really happy and I'm having a great time. That's advertising they can't pay for. Hootsuite is a social media dashboard that allows people such as me to manage a large social media presence. This tool is used by Ford, Coca-Cola, other very large brands. It's a wonderful way to manage a large presence, but it also has the ability to search for specific terms, such as your name, your Twitter handle, your business name, on and on. Grader. This is created by a company called HubSpot. That's HUBSPOT. HubSpot has this grader tool, and it will grade your website, it will grade your social media presence, and will give you a score so that you can see how to improve yourself and how other people are visiting your website and its problems, its good parts. It's a really useful tool, and it's actually quite fast. Twitter search is just that. Twitter is the largest information network on the planet. It's the fastest moving as well. So if something is happening with your name or your brand, Twitter search is a wonderful way to hear immediately what's happening. I know with big events such as the BP spilling of oil, Michael Jackson's death, anything that happened just moments ago. Twitter is the place to find it. I see a lag time of about an hour on CNN and Time and Huffington Post. Twitter will have it immediately. These are a variety of free social media monitoring tools that will let you know what's happening with your name or brand or a specific term. So you Googled yourself. You have set up some kind of a monitoring situation. The next is to make sure you own your own name. I own kerryrego.com. I own my name misspelled in several ways. It's really important for you to own your name if you can. Let's say you can't get your name. Let's say you're Bob Smith, and that's going to be impossible. Well, try your full name. Try your middle name. Try it with a hyphen. Next, if you can't get the .com, go to .net. But .com is the most important one to have. Why? Is that this shows up very, very highly on Google. It's that simple. You can buy it and park it, which means you don't do anything with it. It's more valuable if you buy it and then hook it up to a free blogging tool like WordPress.com, Blogger.com, Tumblr, Google Sites. I know that Apple got rid of their web service, but there's a lot of free services that can very easily point yourname.com to whatever site you would like. I personally use GoDaddy. There's a lot of other domain purchases out there. I've heard them starting as low as $3 a year, going up to thousands of dollars a year, depending on how in demand your name is. But ultimately, it's a very low cost investment. I highly recommend you buy this for yourself. You buy this for your spouse, your partner, your grandchildren. This is a really low cost gift, and it's extremely valuable. If you own your name, you are okay. And the 3 people that I know that share a name with an adult performer, none of them own their own name. So they are at the mercy of those search results. So please own your name.com if you can. Fiddle with the spelling if you need to spread it out to your full name. I chose to buy the misspellings after several years because I have a tool called Google Analytics, yet another free tool that gives me a piece of code, and that code is embedded in my website. So I get lots of information about how people are visiting my website, where they're coming from, what keywords they're using, what page they enter from, a huge amount of data. But after several years, people are consistently misspelling my name in a couple different ways, so I finally decided to buy those. So there's another thing to look at. When it was seeing if your name was available, you can go to any domain purchaser, type in your name, and see if it's available. If it is, it will tell you how much it costs. You can also type in yourname.com into the URL bar and see where it goes. But Namevine, which I'm not sure if you can see it all the way at the bottom, Namevine, like the plant.com, will tell you what channels are available, such as YouTube, Twitter, Flickr, Facebook, Pinterest, on and on and on. Not just your .com domain name, but if you are buying a business, if you are starting a business, if you are starting, if you're enhancing your personal brand, it will show you what channels are available with that name. This is really important for starting a new blog or a new business, because if the domain is owned and all of these other channels are owned, you're going to have to find another name. So if you do own a business, you want to make sure that it appears on the map. Search engines need to provide fresh search results, but those search results need to be applicable by the location that's important to you. If you are looking up a hairdresser, you need the information from Naples or from your neighborhood. If you are receiving a search result that comes from Korea, that's not helpful for you. So hyperlocal is a term that we hear regularly on the web. And yes, you can get information from the entire planet, but you also need information that's applicable to where you live. This map you see is of the location where the map Computer Expo took place in Petaluma, California. So I actually just looked up that location and found the map. Why this is important. If you've heard of Google Street View, Google Street View is the objective of Google to map the entire planet. They actually just posted a detailed map of North Korea yesterday. North Korea has been one of the toughest gets on the whole earth. So at this point, they are reaching their objective and they are mapping everything. Your house is probably on Google Street View, your business, your school, your church, everything is on there. Now let's say it's posted incorrectly. Google Street View captured it via one of their cars or one of their bikes or another vehicle they use to map the planet. But let's say the phone number that's on there is incorrect or it's spelled wrong. You can go in and claim that location. Simply click on that red pin on the map and it will say more info, which you can actually see on the screen. It does say more underneath the name Petaluma Community Center. You can claim the location and make sure that information is correct. Now, why does that matter? It matters because more and more search results are received through a mobile device. I am out and about, away from my computer. I'm on my iPhone or my Android or my tablet, and I am looking for your business or your location, and I need a phone number, I need a street address, I need directions, I need to get there. So the majority of search results are mobile, and that is increasing. So mobile search results, they're coming from where? They're coming from Google, by and large. If you are an Android phone or tablet, then you're definitely Google. If you are an Apple, then you have Apple Maps. But they've now given us a patch so that people can use Google Maps because Apple Maps has not been doing very well lately. Why? It's because Google's been working on this for years. Apple's new to the mapping game. They want to own their own data, I understand that, but Google has years of practice at this. So they have much more data, and it's considered accurate. So at this point, a lot of the websites that are out there that provide search results for location-specific information, like Yelp or other mapping tools, they have an API they have plugged into Google Maps, and they're pulling it right out of Google Maps. So this is probably the most important place to have your business correct and listed. If you can see at the bottom of the screen, it's a bit.ly address, bit.ly/master list directories. And I can also be available on my website for you so that you can see it on slideshare.net/Kerry Rego Consulting. This is already posted, but I'll send this to George as well, so that if some of these are cut off a little bit since they're at the bottom, you'll have a master list of directories. Google Maps/Places, which has recently been named Google Plus Local, is probably the most important to be listed on. Very easy. So I mentioned negativity earlier. What's the worst thing somebody could say about your business? Well, ultimately, or what's the worst thing they could say about you, is I have to bring you back to our traditional skill set. How do you deal with negativity when it's face-to-face, when it's over the phone? The same skills that you used previously are the same skills you're going to need now. This is not reinventing the wheel. This is simply reapplying transportation. So the basic steps are listen, respond, and react. Why is this important? Ultimately, we all want to be acknowledged. We all want to be seen. If you've ever been ignored in a customer service situation, there's nothing that seems to irritate people more than being ignored. Simply saying to somebody, I hear what you're saying. That is a valid concern. Responding to them. Many companies and individuals are afraid to respond. How would you treat this person in real life? And react. So do something. Even if you aren't going to change your practice or how you do things, but acknowledging that you hear them, that's a valid concern. I understand that that's your experience. I'm sorry that that happened to you. If it goes to that point, you can, if they were at your desk or your customer service kiosk at your office, what you can do is say, well, can we step outside? Can we step over here and have a conversation about that? I'd like to know more. Same thing online. You can say, that's a valid concern. Can I talk to you by phone or email and see how I can help you? Give them an expected time frame. We'll get back to you in 24 hours. We're going to handle this problem. Communicating is really the most important thing. We've been on the web such a long time that we have the ability to recognize when somebody is unbalanced, when somebody is looking to make a stink or raise a ruckus. Negativity online, yes, is visible to other people. I would recommend not erasing negative posts if you have the ability to do so for a couple different reasons. One, if you've been in business for any length of time, you know for a fact that somebody's unhappy. It's impossible to make everybody happy all the time. But negativity, leaving negative posts up, show people that you are not sanitizing your environment. Your audience will see that you have deleted something, or if they didn't see the negativity in the first place, they will notice that it is one even tone, that there is no aberration in this really positive and chipper environment. Nobody's arguing, nobody's unhappy, nobody's a little, on the offside. Ultimately, negativity provides balance. Another thing that it does is that it allows you to provide customer service and show your maturity. If you're an individual, then it shows maturity if you're able to deal with a situation that's not super pleasant. But when you're a business, this could actually gain customers. And I'll tell you how this works. There was a biking and kayaking company here in Northern California, and we're in wine country, so we get tourists from all over the world. And this company was a client of mine, and I was doing what's called a reputation management audit. It's where I search for their name online, and everything I find, I create a report. This is what I found, this is what it looks like, and this is how we can fix it. This is what we can do to improve the situation. So I was on TripAdvisor, and this is a review site for tourism locations. And when I was looking at this company's TripAdvisor listings, I found a negative post. A customer said, well, I didn't get the tour I wanted, and I'm unhappy. This isn't what I wanted when I paid for it. So it wasn't super negative, it just wasn't a happy customer. Now what the owner did was he responded to the customer and he said, wow, that's a bummer. I'll take you out myself. Next time you want to take a tour, it's on me. And the great thing about it was that it sounded like him. It sounded like his regular tone of voice. It was natural. And he acknowledged that this person had an unhappy experience, and he made them feel better. And your concern is, well, everybody's going to want something free. Well, there's always going to be those kinds of people. But ultimately, he handled it really easily, comfortably, naturally, and the way he would have done it face to face. I know for a fact, because it's exactly the way he would say it out loud. But what it gained for me was that it showed me how he dealt with a customer service situation, how he dealt with negativity. It made me more willing to purchase from him because I knew that he would take good care of me. I know there are many people out there that won't purchase online or from a certain company because it's a big pain to return something. It's not just the purchase, it's the follow-up customer service that matters as well. And ultimately, you don't have control. We thought we had control. It was an illusion. It's not the internet that made us more out of control or made this scarier. Control has been an illusion. The only thing you actually control in any situation is how you react. And that's still true. I did see a statistic that 83% of companies will face a crisis that will negatively impact their share price between 20 and 30% during the next 5 years. They will experience a crisis. So preparing for that crisis is really important. And how do you prepare for web crisis? Well, let me give you an example that you're already familiar with. You are really familiar with the fire drill. Remember the, gosh, in the 50s, they did a lot of under the desk bomb drills, fire drills. In California, we have earthquake drills. So we are all real comfortable with that plan. And if you are in any public building near the door, you are going to find an escape plan, an escape route. It's near elevators in a building. So if you own a business or you are involved with an organization as a volunteer, having a crisis plan is really important. Why? Is that you have assets you're probably not paying attention to. Your assets include your website. They include your server. They include your email addresses. They include any social media channels that you have. So you need to plan the procedure. This is an emergency. What are you going to do? Plan it out, each scenario, if it's a fire or an earthquake, or if your website has been hacked, if the administrator for your Facebook page has gone rogue and taken over the page. Plan for each mock situation, document what you're going to do, run through that exercise and train for it. It becomes muscle memory and you remember what to do. If you have a communications policy, you don't need a whole new social media policy. You will simply add in new tools as necessary. I reviewed the County of Sonoma social media policy, and sometimes the information in there simply needs to be updated as the tools are purchased and they fold into each other. I did review their policy and said, you should take this one tool out because it no longer exists. So your communications policy should be reviewed. I would recommend at least once a year when you review your company goals, but you need to communicate that policy with your staff and train for best practices and make sure everything is up to date. So the tools that I've given you so far are: 1, Google yourself. 2, monitor your name, own your name, list your business. I have a list in a moment, but we've gotten through several of those. These are the tools that will help you own the first page of Google. Facebook pages, and by the way, all of these are free. Facebook pages, very high. These require maintenance, they do. I recommend once a day posting to these. If you're just starting, 3 times a week. Your LinkedIn personal profile is go-to place for your personal name. If you're not in business and you're not in the corporate world anymore, this isn't as important. But you know what, at this point, I really recommend everybody have a LinkedIn profile. If you are a visual artist, if you are in food service or music, performing arts, maybe not so much, but ultimately LinkedIn is the most important source for your personal brand. LinkedIn does not have puppies, it doesn't have kittens, no glitter, no fancy recipes. LinkedIn is about business and your personal reputation. You only have to include what you want to include. Think of it as your resume. Why this is important is that it raises very high on Google. All of these show up very high. It's really easy to build and it doesn't take a lot of maintenance on your part. This is something that I would look at, build it, look at it once a quarter, make sure it's up to date, make sure it's accurate. But it is very important, this particular tool. Twitter, only about 15% of the United States uses Twitter, so if you don't like it and you don't want it, I give you permission to not care. Twitter is one of those, either you get it or you don't, but ultimately it does show up very high on Google. I mentioned Google Maps, which when you are a driver or a consumer, it looks like Google Maps. When you are the owner of the location, you enter through a door called Google Places. Google has rebranded a lot of their tools, so now they call Google Places Google Plus Local. So either way, if you say Google Places, it will still get you to the right location. That is extremely important. And if you Google a particular business, often their map will show up on the right-hand side, and that's what we already talked about. Manta, this is a directory service. It's like a phone book. It shows up very, very high for a person that doesn't have a large web footprint. Often Manta will use public information such as a phone book and will print your phone number from when you were in college or from 20 years ago. Often Manta information is incorrect. You can, for free, like all of these, claim your Manta listing, delete it, edit it, do whatever you want with it. All of these will try and get you to pay money somewhere, somehow. You don't have to pay money for any of these. The next is a blog. I often recommend you buyyourname.com and then call the domain service. That's why I like GoDaddy. You can pick up the phone and talk to a real person any time of the day and say, I have this WordPress blog and I own myname.com. Can you help me point myname.com to my blog? And they're really, really helpful, and they just take care of it for you. So having your own blog is really important. If you see in the upper right-hand corner, that's a Blogger blog logo. Blogger is owned by Google. Google likes its own tools. So using a Blogger blog is great. I don't think it's particularly advanced the way it looks, but it does score very high. And again, it's free. So any blog that you can think of, Tumblr, WordPress, Blogger, etc., on and on, all that matters is that you can say anything you want to say and your name points to that blog. Pick 12 subjects, write once a month. That's a great starting place. And that way, you putting out a message about your name. And that's a really good tool if there is negative information out there about you. Having your own blog with your name attached to it makes you the most reliable source for your name because it's coming from you. The next is Pinterest. Pinterest is a huge mover in this game of social media. They're the third largest social network, one of the fastest growing social networks. They also drive a lot of commerce. A lot of purchasing happens through Pinterest. So sharing photos on that particular site does rise up very high on Google. SlideShare, as I mentioned earlier, this slideshow that you see exists on slideshare.net. Again, it's a free channel for me, and I post a lot of my PowerPoint presentations there for the audiences that I speak to take later, and you can download them. SlideShare is, it ranks really, really high. It's surprising. And most people don't even know about it. It is owned by LinkedIn. They purchased it last year. And YouTube. YouTube, again, is owned by Google. It is the largest video search engine on the planet. If you make a video, try and keep it 2 minutes or less, those tend to perform better. But because it's a Google tool, it gets served very highly. All of these tools show up on Google, generally the first page. You do also see the logo bottom right-hand corner for Google+. Google Plus information is being served very highly, though its audience is much smaller. And then Yelp is at the bottom as well. I threw that one in there. That one doesn't always show up on the first page. But anything you see on the page, if there is any message out there about you, using these free tools will allow you to influence what's being seen. Remember I said that you used to have to pay a lot of money to make the first page Google? Now, using these free tools, you can do it yourself. Now, as far as time, I don't have a lot of time. I don't want to waste a lot of time. Facebook pages on this whole list are the only ones that require a lot of maintenance. LinkedIn, you build it. If you don't want to use Twitter, don't use Twitter. It's very time intensive. Google Local, you build it and you leave it. Manta, you build it, you fix it, done. Blog, write a blog once a month or more frequently as you're ready. Pinterest, the more you use Pinterest, the better it works for you. SlideShare, you don't need to use it that much. YouTube, you can post 1 video a month, maybe more. So ultimately, it actually requires very little time. You just need to plan a little bit. But if you use some of these tools, you're going to own at least the first page, at least half the first page, if you don't share a name with a well-known person. So here are the action items. And really truthfully, if you don't have a pen or there's really only one thing you walk away from this presentation, I want you to perform a vanity search. Look up your name, look up your business name online and see what happens. But then you can monitor it, make sure you purchase your name, buy it for family, friends, etc., give them a gift, they're really cheap. And then list your business on some sort of a mapping tool, Google+, Local, or any others that you would like. That master list of directories will be useful for you. Addressing negative content. Don't let that negative content sit there unattended. At least say something. And then have a strategy for creating content of some kind. That's what that last slide was for. and then post something about you. If you don't drive the car of your reputation, somebody else will. So I just wanted you to have these action items so that you can go out and make a positive effect on your online reputation. Here is some information about me. I will make sure to send this to George. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my face so that if anybody has any questions, I am more than happy to answer them. So let me get to my screen of Skype. Okay. Hello.
We hear you.
You're on mute.
Oh, I'm on mute. Hold on a minute. Can you hear me?
Hello. I can hear you.
Good. You ready for questions?
Ready.
Okay, when you ask a question, please speak up.
A lot of us have not participated in these type of things because of identity protection, abuse of our own personal information. Any comments about that? How do we avoid that?
Can't hear you. No sound.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
There we go. There are some listings that you can remove your information from. So the Google searching yourself online is really helpful for you to know what's out there. There are a lot of directory listings that you can remove your information from. But when you say abuse, I'm not sure if that's specific to you or if information is just, there's too much information out there about you.
Well, we just want to, we hear stories of people putting information on Facebook elsewhere, and later it is used, you know, as a, what is it? Yeah, identity theft.
Identity theft is, and then the number one way your identity is stolen is, Are you able to hear me? Because I can see that you're making this look.
Yeah, I did. I muted.
Can you hear me? I can hear you.
We find that when we're doing these conferences, that while you're talking, if I mute, we hear you better. There's no interference.
So identity theft is most commonly occurred through email addresses, not using appropriate virus software, and through traditional mail. So identity theft is most frequently not necessarily an internet problem, it's more of a protection problem. So if you're not using appropriate protection such as virus software, as a Mac group, we don't have that kind of we don't have that problem as much as PC users do. But a big thing that will help you stay safe is not clicking on any links that you're not familiar with, that you don't know where they're going or what they're for. But identity theft from social media, it's not a huge concern. Yes, it can happen. I would be more concerned about your physical mail and your email than anything else. But social media is not a major concern for identity theft.
Next question. Next question. Yes, Mitch.
I'd like you to talk more about Facebooks. This is sort of a retirement type group. I'm probably one of the biggest users on Facebooks, and I mean, I maybe have 125 friends, but I pretty much locked down the security, and I didn't like the fact that when you searched on Google, my name popped up and they could go right to my home page. But I did create quite a timeline of pictures throughout my life, and I've thought a lot about that. Well, maybe I should. I mean, there's no pictures that that are bad pictures, but I thought, well, maybe I should remove some of that stuff. But can you just? And it's sort of disturbing to me that about every time I feel good about locking down my Facebooks, they change the rules.
Yeah. They do. So there's a couple things that you can do that will increase your sense of security. Ultimately, there's no such thing as privacy anywhere. Not online, not off at this point. The only place that you're really, really safe is within the confines of your own home. But what you can do on Facebook is you can disable public search, which is enabling people to find you through Google and go to your Facebook profile. Within your settings, it's called Enable Public Search, and yours is currently selected if somebody can find you. They do constantly change the search ability and the privacy settings for Facebook, and that makes it very difficult. So if you just consider your Facebook an open book, that's really a great way to look at it. But when it comes to your individual pictures and your individual albums, you're going to need to go into the photo section of your Facebook and change the settings for each album.
We lost you.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
We lost you.
She's that handsome guy underneath there.
She's trying.
Make your announcement again about online, because a lot of people came in after it was made, and they may be online. The Wi-Fi.
You don't, please don't use the Naples Mug internet connection. Use Chet Small. What's going on here? Trying to figure this out. Are you back?
I am. I apologize. I lost a connection. So we have the public globe. We have the two heads. That means your friends can see it. And then there's other privacy settings. You should really have every post at friends, the two heads. And that doesn't matter if it's a text post where you say, hey, you know, I'm at the Naples Mac users group today having a great time, or it's for a photo. But you're gonna have to go into those photo albums and edit the visibility of those albums and as tightly down as you want to. You can customize it so only you can see it. You can exclude people, but the albums are different. You really have to go into each and every one of them and make sure only your friends can see it. And when we regularly see these hoax posts about what people can see and how do they phrase them? I would like you to change your settings so only my friends can see this post. If you see something like that, they come about every 6 to 8 weeks. It's kind of a hoax. If you keep your posts to friends, then you're safe, you're good, and you're okay. Ultimately, Facebook is an open book, and it's only going to become more open. So you can sanitize a little bit. You can also use a new cool tool called Face Wash that can help you eliminate a lot of information quickly that you don't want up.
More questions? You have a question?
Are you a Mac person or PC?
1 second. Start all over again. Say it again.
Are you a Mac or a PC?
I am bilingual. I use both. I prefer Mac, and all of my tools are Mac. I only keep a PC on hand so I can talk to the uninformed.
So maybe Mountain Lion with the sandboxing has eliminated the problem, but you talk about LinkedIn. I'm one of those people who's not on any of these things. but you recommended joining LinkedIn. Is that automatically going to spam all my friends and invite them to join? Because I get stuff from people I hardly know, invite, you know, be their LinkedIn friend.
That's an excellent question, and this is a really important one. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned it because it's something I need to write a blog on. It's a misunderstood feature. LinkedIn is the most guilty of this particular folly, and what happens is when someone joins LinkedIn or any of these other tools, they offer an option that says basically, we'll make it easy on you. Just give us your email address and your password, and we will go into your contact list and spam everybody. But they do. So just about every person, it seems, that has joined LinkedIn has spammed all of their friends, and they don't realize it. So the trick to do that and not spam your friends is to not give LinkedIn your email address and your email password. When you create a LinkedIn account, you don't have to use the same information that you do use for your email, but they will try and slyly ask you to offer up that information. I don't trust LinkedIn with my contact list, not at all, because they will spam everybody. So you can go in and put as little information as you would like, but just as long as you don't give them your email address and password, they won't spam anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question. Any other questions? Yes.
I have I'm Greg Davidson. My middle initial is L. Right now, everything is excellent for credit and whatnot, but there is also a Greg D. Davidson that's not so good. Where might I go to make sure that his information is not related to mine?
Well, I would really search for your names online. Search for your name in every variation possible so that you know what's out there. And ultimately, if there is some negativity out there, what you can do is consistently, having your own blog is really useful, because if you have your own blog and you post something about who you are, that's going to rise up higher on Google or any other search engine. Ultimately, blogs are one of the best tools to make sure that the information that's out there about you is good, it's your words, it's accurate, and it's what you want. Blogs are probably the best thing you could possibly use to overwrite. And let me give you an example. Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, he said at the Technomi conference, I believe it was in 2008, he said that every 48 hours, we create more data than all of human history up until 2003. Every 2 days, we wipe out all data and rewrite it. It's like a fresh blanket of snow. So if you're using any of these tools, particularly a blog, what you're doing is you are piling on top. And if you pile on top, eventually the stuff that you don't like or stuff that's not great, it gets buried and it gets knocked down. So if you post something on top of the pile, it just gets knocked down. So that's the best way to do it, is know that when you put something fresh out there, it can be served first just because of its timing.
Ruth has a question.
How often does Google change its search engine parameters?
They change it up to 3 times a year, actually, and they're probably going to speed that up because the speed of the web has gotten faster. All of the tools that I mentioned on that second to last slide are all specializing in fast publishing. So the speed of the web has gotten faster. Hence that statistic from Eric Schmidt of Google. I think because that statistic is 5 years old now, I would say it's not 48 hours anymore. I would say it's closer to 40 or 38 hours that we're rewriting all of human history. Just the data that's saved, we're creating more than is already saved every 2 days. So we're moving faster, so I have a feeling that Google is going to update its algorithm. Right now it's 2 or 3 times a year, maybe even more, up to 4 times a year. They just make it more difficult for people to game the system. And social media isn't gaming, it's organic.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Next question.
Kerry, this was an unusually informative session, and it's particularly informative to people like myself who's not been on Facebook or any of these other things, and we're very appreciative. My question is, I would like to rehear this session. Ruben, is there some way for us to access a repeat of this?
I'm doing a video of it, and I will make it available in the next couple days, so you can play it back at your, at your leisure.
We're very appreciative. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I do want to mention that because this subject matter is so important and I'm passionate about it, and thank you very much for your compliment. I'm really happy to be of use. But I've been talking about this for several years, so what I decided to do was I wrote a book. And it's really easy to understand, and it's all of this information. Actually, this information is really only one chapter. There's a lot more to it, but I really needed to provide a takeaway for people and an easy to follow plan. So I did write a book. It is available on my site. If you would like to gift it to somebody, or if you want written materials to go with the content, but there's a lot more to it.
If you saved the announcement, it had a link to the book and how to get it. Can they get the book through iBook?
Not yet. I have to wait until the beginning of March. They only allow me to be in one digital store at a time, which I've learned the hard way. It's currently available in paperback and Kindle, but it will be available in iBook in about a month.
Okay, do we have anybody that has a question that we haven't had one from?
What's the name of the book? She held it up very shortly.
It's called What You Don't Know About Social Media Can Hurt You. Take control of your online reputation.
Mitch?
Well, on owning your own name, I did go on to that GoDaddy.site. There were all kind of everythings. I mean,
yes.
I could go crazy with this. How many do I really want to get?
.com.
So .net, I don't have to get a bunch of them.
No, if you can't get .com, I say try every combination you possibly can. You really want .com. If worst comes to worst, .net is the second best. But the rest of them, I really wouldn't worry about.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very, very much. We really enjoyed it. We had a record turnout, and we really appreciate it.